Madam Ashatu, as the host. Yeah, I think you really sit in a very important place in agriculture trade, and I think we've seen Tanzania, reinvent itself. But I let that, leave that to you to discuss. What is really the government of Tanzania planning to do to continue to facilitate trade? And I want you to, speak from, of course, as a minister in Tanzania, so as an agenda of Tanzania pushing agriculture trade into the region, but also from a perspective of a strategic connector of the Southern Africa region and Eastern Africa region as an important, corridor in Tanzania. We hear a lot about, some of the challenges that transporters and traders face when they're coming from, say, Zambia, Malawi, going into Sudan, South Sudan. And so what is it that Tanzania really is doing to enable that, promote your own, trade, but also enable other countries to use Tanzania as a key corridor? Over to you, Madam Ashatu.
Thank you so much, Daniel, for making me to be the first one. And as you have said, as a host, I think I'm required to say you are most welcome, all of you, to Tanzania, and particularly to this specific room for this discussion, enlightening on how trade is happening in Africa, but specifically in Tanzania. Thank you so much, Daniel. And if I can start on what we are doing here in Tanzania for the agro-trade. Just allow me to call it agro-trade. Yes. Yeah, in Tanzania, we thank Her Excellency Dr. Samia Suluhu Hassan for her willingness to make our farmers from the small to the larger one to increase the efficiency in what they produce. When we increase efficiency in what we produce, then that's how you hear. We didn't close our borders in exporting the agro-food from Tanzania to our neighbors and to the world. This is what we are doing here in Tanzania. And if I can give one example, in last year, comparing to last 2 years, if I take only one product, the agro-product that is maize, for the maize for 2022, we managed to export it to our neighbors and to the world with the value of $71 million vis-a-vis the only $20 million in last 2 years. So this is what actually we are doing, and we have said we will not close our borders, so that we can make our neighbors get the food, but also get the food, and we are prepared to make the world get the food from Tanzania. So we are just putting that one is efficiency in our production, but when we increase our efficiency in production, we will make the world get the food from Tanzania. And coming to the cross-border trade and cost and other transaction costs that our key stakeholders are facing while trading through Tanzania, we understand, we ministers for trade, one of the very costly component in doing business in Africa is transaction cost and logistics. So we as ministers of trade, we are trying hard to see how we can advise our governments. For me in Tanzania, actually, I'm just putting more efforts in talking with the government so that we can increase efficiency in our ports, increase efficiency in our borders. When we do clearing and forwarding, we really need to see that we're just doing in a very short period of time so that we can allow our business community to trade efficiently. So this is actually what we are doing, increasing efficiency in our ports, but also in our cross-border trade. We have been hearing our drivers getting some sort of difficulties in passing from one country to the other in Africa, as I said. Yes, in Tanzania, in last week, and I think the parliamentary committee, they are here with us, they allowed us to go through with the trading services protocol in our parliament, and we passed it, and then that we are just seeing that it will allow us to clear all those hurdles that our people are meeting while doing business in Africa and with our neighbors. As I've said before, that transport costs is one of the components which is so high in doing business in Tanzania, that is transport, but also taking too much time in transacting between us. If I can give one of example, I understand last in October, we started doing business in Africa Continental Free Trade Area. One of our first cargo started last October. It took almost 4 months for our first cargo to travel from Tanzania to Senegal. Now you can try to see. Now through all this, then we are advising the government, what should we improve more? And I thank Her Excellency Dr. Samia Suluhu Hassan, who has allowed also to buy a cargo airplane for us in Tanzania so that we can easily doing business here. So these are the things that we are trying hard to do in Tanzania. Thank you, Daniel.
Thank you, madam. That's very beautiful. Yes. I mean, she has, made it clear they want to keep borders open. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you. Madam Mashatu, Honorable Minister, Tanzania, I think you have, some balances of time from Ethiopia and Uganda, so you can use that. And for that reason, I like to put a small spin. A few months ago, we noticed, trucks, queuing at the border into Kenya, failing to cross. And of course, few days later, you quickly resolved it with your counterpart in Kenya. What are the lessons that we need to take away from that experience? First of all, to avoid that from happening again, but also improving the relationship. Because I think you're on phone call with your counterpart and things quickly resolved. But still, a few people were complaining. I mean, in your final remarks, you might want to touch on that as well. Over to you, Madam Asha.
Okay, thank you, Donald. And if I can start with those trucks, I can say the actual thing to be done for all of us is just to agree that private sector is an engine for economic growth. That's it. So what we need now, if all of us agree on that, is just to facilitate doing business between us. Let's engage, let's increase the volume of having private and public dialogue. So that's something we really need to understand, all of us, so that we can move fast as a continent. If we want to feed the world, we should start feeding Africa first. So, and we have the capacity to do that. So that's something, and we cannot feed Africa, we cannot feed the world if we leave our private sector behind. So let's talk together, let's move together, let's discuss, let's resolve, and we are ready to feed the world from Tanzania and from Africa also. Thank you so much, Daniel. And finally, I welcome you all, particularly my brother here. Yeah. He has just visited Zanzibar. Yeah. We have a lot of other attractions, tourist attractions. Yeah. I welcome you, Honorable Minister, my brother. Yeah. Let us see. This is Tanzania. We have a lot of attraction from Kilimanjaro, Serengeti, and all other things. Let us visit together before we go back home. Thank you so much. Na karibuni sana.
Thank you, Honorable Minister. Thank you, Honorable Minister. I think we can do better than that. I think the panel has been brilliant, very good interventions. Appreciating you again, Honorable Ministers, Ethiopia, Tanzania host, and Uganda, and of course, private sector. For showing up very well as usual. Another round of applause, please, for all the panelists. Thank you, thank you.